Welcome, everyone, to our Heritage Board meeting. It's Thursday, December 4th, and it's just a little bit past 4:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Do I have any declaration of conflicts today? Seeing none, can I have an approval of the agenda? Moved by Tara, seconded by Lucas. All those in favor? Great, thank you very much. And an adoption of the minutes from our previous board meeting on November 24th. Okay, moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Sharon. All those in favor? Wonderful, thank you. Any business arising from those minutes? Okay, seeing none, we have just one item on our agenda for today, and it's 1B West Street, and it's for a temporary designation. And we have the homeowners here with us today. Welcome, thank you for coming. And I think we'll start first with Brad. We'll give his, or maybe it's Natalie.
Yeah.
Both of you, tag teaming, whatever. So we'll start with you folks, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
So the Planning and Heritage Department has received a development application for 1B West Street, PID 365-833, located within the 500 lot area zone downtown neighborhood. Proposing significant renovations and alterations to the existing building. The property is currently not designated as a heritage resource and is therefore not protected under the Heritage Preservation Bylaw. As submitted, the proposed work is considered as of right under the Zoning and Development Bylaw. A review of the submission indicates that if renovated as proposed, the property would be at imminent risk of irreparable or costly damage to its heritage character. A subsequent evaluation confirmed the heritage significance of the site, including its age, architectural significance, and historical interest. Considering the imminent risk posed by the proposed renovations and alterations, which would subsequently affect the character-defining elements and overall heritage integrity of the property, the heritage officers recommend that a temporary designation under Section 3.4 of the Heritage Preservation Bylaw be requested for Council's consideration. If Council orders a temporary designation, no person may move, alter, develop, or demolish any building, structure, site, or area on the property for a period of 45 calendar days from the date of service of the notice, unless the notice is revoked or canceled in accordance with the bylaw. This temporary designation would also provide Council with the necessary time to determine whether to proceed with a full heritage designation of the property. I'll now pass it over to Natalie to talk about the property history.
Thanks, Brad. The 1B West Street is located on the southern end of West Street. It's a wood-framed house constructed in 1939-1940 for the Honorable George Desrosiers de Blois to serve as his residence upon returning to private life following the completion of his term as the Lieutenant Governor in late 1939. De Blois was a wholesale merchant and exporter and served as president of the firm De Blois Brothers. All right. De Blois was also active politically and an avid volunteer. His wife, Marion, was the daughter of Arthur and Ella Newberry of Charlottetown. Arthur Newberry was the provincial secretary of PEI for over 50 years and a significant contributor to the development of Charlottetown's Queen Square Gardens in 1884 in collaboration with the Charlottetown Arbor Society. And you can see them in the picture on the left, with Newberry on the left, George De Blois, Marion, and the children. 1B West Street remained in the De Blois family into the mid-1980s when the Rod family took possession of the home. The Rod family are well-known pioneers in the tourism and hospitality industry in Prince Edward Island. In 2019, the house was sold and converted into a bed and breakfast. In 2023, the property was sold to a corporation, and the current owners obtained it in 2024. In the same year, a portion of the property was subdivided and sold, and a house was built on the new lot on the south side, the current 1A West Street. The next slide. Thank you. 1B West Street was designed by architect James E. Harris, the nephew of renowned architect William Critchlow Harris. Active in Charlottetown from the 1920s to the 1950s, James E. Harris was a well-known figure in the architectural history of Prince Edward Island and Charlottetown. He is listed as designing numerous projects, including the Tweal Block, which you can see up on the right, the Curry Block, which is on the far left, the one on the corner across the street from here, the Cass Science Hall at the University of Prince Edward Island in the center, as well as the Simon Pally House at Ambrose Street on the bottom, as well as other ones throughout the city. Aside from his larger projects that included religious, commercial, and institutional buildings, a variety of his domestic designs can be found throughout the city, including the Pally Redden House, of course, that I just spoke about. All right, can we get another slide? Thank you. The home was influenced by the Georgian adaptation style, and a preliminary evaluation has revealed that the building has retained most of the original architectural elements, including the massing, hipped roof, chimneys, symmetrical facade, center two-story portico, the fenestration, most of the moldings, including the swan neck molding above the door with the dentelated frieze and pilasters throughout, the two-story sun porch, and the garage. Updates have been made to the home, but most of the original footprint of the building and architectural details have remained. If a temporary designation is granted, staff will be required to undertake further evaluation of the building, including additional research on the property itself. 1B West Street, we feel, is made more impressive due to its setting. It's set back off the street with a curved driveway, and like the surrounding neighborhood, it's a grand house on a street with large, impressive houses. The area has a mix of largely wood-frame 2- and 3-story homes at a variety of ages. Most of the area was constructed in the 19th and the early half of the 20th century, except for the 2 new homes to the very south that were built on empty lots. Many of the houses on West Street were designed by the city's most talented architects, including, of course, James Harris, William Critchlow Harris, C.B. Chappell. Like its neighbors, 1B West Street has a stunning water view and is part of the viewscape from Victoria Park. Due to its elaborate architecture and grand setting on the water side of West Street, 1B West Street is a landmark in Charlottetown, we feel. The home is one of a kind in the city. Most locals know the house with the center portico and similar look, but smaller scale than Government House. One of the sources used in this report would be Jim McNutt's book, Inside Island Heritage Homes, 200 Years of Domestic Architecture on Prince Edward Island, claimed that the Bloises selected the style of home because they wanted a house that reminded them of Government House, which they had left behind when George de Blois retired from the viceregal role. West Street, known for its architecture and grandeur, is on most architectural and historical tours of the city, thanks to the prominent houses that make up the street. 1B West Street is an essential part of the established streetscape. Thank you.
So just to reference the policy framework here, so in accordance with the Heritage Preservation Bylaw, Section 3.4, temporary designation 3.4.1, wherein the heritage officer's opinion, a heritage resource with characteristics that may meet the criteria for designation is at risk of imminent, irreparable, or costly damage to the site's heritage nature, the heritage officer may, without prior notice, request a temporary designation by council. So that's what we're doing here tonight through the Heritage Board. I will mention as well that the designation of heritage properties does fall in line with the current existing official plan and the recently updated official plan for the city of Charlottetown. 1B West Street is a prominent landmark located in the established street, or on an established street in the 500 lot area that holds a pronounced view from the Victoria Park Heritage Resource. Its elaborate architecture and setting establish its importance on the West Street streetscape as well as Victoria Park view plane. Its scale and massing remain consistent with the adjacent properties located on the street. Although a physical on-site inspection and evaluation of the property has not been completed, the Heritage Building Evaluation score of 85 underscores its heritage value and places it among the highest scoring properties assessed in the area. Other factors are considered, including but not limited to a heritage assessment, which this temporary designation would allow time for. The recently submitted proposal to renovate and alter the property includes substantial additions on the north and south side of the building. This work would result in the removal of the 1939-1940 sun porch and garage and would significantly alter the historic character-defining elements of the property. Should Heritage Board support the request to Council for a temporary designation of 1B West Street, staff would be able to undertake more detailed analysis of the property and its existing condition, potentially including a third-party heritage assessment if required, to better inform Council's decision on whether to proceed with a full heritage designation. This report provides Heritage Board with the information needed to support staff's request that Council imposes a temporary designation on 1B West Street, a property with characteristics that meet the criteria for designation. Staff's recommendation and the Heritage Officer's authority in this matter are supported by the City's Heritage Preservation Bylaw. So with that, staff's recommendation is that Heritage Board supports the request to council that 1B West Street, PID 365833, be temporarily designated as a heritage resource in the city of Charlottetown pursuant to the section 3.4 of the City of Charlottetown Heritage Preservation Bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report, Natalie and Brad. I'm going to now turn it over to the homeowners to present. And then once we have all the presentations done, then we can open it up to the board for questions for staff, for the homeowner, as well as we do have our legal counsel here, should we require that at any point. So over to you folks, Jackie and Philip O'Halloran.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to attend the meeting here this evening. So it did come to our surprise that we received a call about this meeting, I guess, that was supposed to have been held on Monday. We were traveling, and thankfully, things were pushed off a couple of days to give us a chance to attend. In saying all this, we've been over 2 years preparing and going through this process, and a little taken back, we decided to table or bring some of the work that we've been doing to the meeting here tonight and have their professional opinion presented. And I'd like to start with Matt Bradley, our lawyer, and give his legal opinion on where this would leave us as property owners and talk about our property rights. So maybe we'll start with Matt, I guess, and then I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Doug Coles. He's been helping us with the plans and some assessment. This is going back over a year now, too, as well. So we'll start with Matt, I guess.
Okay, so as Philip indicated, I'm here as legal counsel. I don't profess to give a legal opinion here tonight on any issues. I can present you with the view from this side of the fence of the issue. But I think there's some distinctions that need to be drawn here or pointed out to the committee. One is that we're not here today because of an application by the homeowners for a heritage designation. We're not here because of a request from a member of the public for a heritage designation. We're here because city officials are asking for a temporary designation of the property. And in reviewing, and they're asking for the heritage designation under the Heritage Preservation Bylaw. And in reviewing the bylaw for preparing today, it struck me that the Heritage Preservation Bylaw doesn't actually contain anything that tells you as to what its purpose is. There's no section that indicates the purpose of the bylaw. So you have to decipher the purpose of it yourself. And common sense would lead a person to a conclusion that the purpose of the Heritage Preservation Bylaw is to preserve historically significant buildings or properties in the city. And it's also interesting what the heritage officers in their application for a request for a temporary designation don't say in their report. They don't actually tell you how what my clients want to do to restore the property and maintain it as a single-family dwelling, which it always has been, is how that presents a risk of imminent, irreparable, or costly damage to the site's heritage nature. They tell you that that's their opinion or that's their conclusion, but they don't tell you what is at risk of being lost here. They just make a blanket statement. They want to do something. We think this is a heritage property. therefore we think we need a temporary designation. They don't really tell you what's at risk, what elements are going to be lost. My clients are not here or haven't come to the city asking for a demolition permit. They're asking to do renovations or additions to their existing family home. Now, most of these applications, and this is anecdotal, but I believe they come as a result of someone asking for demolition. They don't come as a result of someone trying to restore the property. And Doug Coles is here to speak to the need to restore this property. So this request is, the bylaw gives these not elected officials or bureaucrats a significant power with the ability to, based on their opinion and their opinion alone, request a temporary designation. And that's why this committee exists, is to examine that request and not simply rubber stamp it and allow it to go beyond. The example of everyone being in school at some point in time, and you have a math problem, you know the answer. You don't get to just write down the answer and get 100 on the problem. The teacher wants to see your work. Well, here, the officials, they haven't shown their work. They've reached a conclusion, but they haven't provided you with any evidence that supports their conclusion. Just that these people want to do stuff, make changes, heritage characteristics are going to be lost. They don't tell you which ones. They don't tell how it's at risk, how it's irreparable, nothing of that nature. So it's this committee's job to look at and examine these characteristics. But unfortunately, they haven't been presented to you. It's not the role of this committee to just simply rubber stamp the request. You have to take a good hard look at it. And in taking that good hard look, you have to view it through the lens of the person who is making the request is also the person who is evaluating the property. So the report is not an unbiased report. It is being presented by the very person who's requesting the designation. So there's a real risk of bias in this highly subjective report. By its nature, heritage is subjective. But when you look at the first page of the report, and in the second paragraph, it reads, "This recommendation is being brought forward following the review of a recent building and development permit application submitted by the owners and an internal heritage evaluation. The review of the submitted renderings indicates that the proposed renovations and alterations would result in significant impacts to the heritage character of the property. In the heritage officer's opinion, this property, which appears to satisfy the criteria for heritage designation, is at risk of imminent, irreparable, or costly damage to its heritage nature if the proposed work proceeds as submitted." But they don't tell you how, or they don't tell you why. So how are you supposed to make that, to examine that? This board, and ultimately council, after your recommendation, cannot simply assume there would be imminent, irreparable, or costly damage to the heritage nature of the property because the owners want to do necessary maintenance, restorations, and additions to the property. The applicants need to provide their specific concerns. There's no specifics in their report. The board and council must be provided with evidence to support the applicant's conclusions before issuing or recommending a temporary designation. And it's important to examine what's the impact of this temporary designation. This temporary designation is taking away people's rights. This is an as of right. So if you're looking to take away someone's right, you better have very good reasons to do so. And they're just not here with this request. Now, the city and the heritage officers have had ample opportunities over the past 26 years since the official plan was approved in '99 to designate the property as a heritage property. It hasn't happened. There was a change of use in the property in 2019 when it was converted to a bed and breakfast. It wasn't done at that point in time. In 2024, there was a subdivision of a lot off of the property. Heritage designation wasn't done at that point in time. So this property has come before the city on different occasions and hasn't received our request for a temporary designation. And as my clients have indicated, they've been discussing with the planning department their intentions for the property for essentially 2 years at this point in time. And now that they're ready to proceed, now the officials are asking for a temporary designation to examine things a little further and hopefully, and in the hopes of gaining greater control over the property if it is designated. The other thing is, the property is located in the 500 lot area. There are specific requirements for this property. It's in the 500 lot area. There's things that are permitted, there's things that are not permitted with this property. That's why council has done the work of identifying the 500 lot area as a special area and has drafted a zoning and development bylaw for these properties. Now, this is where I turn to be the bad guy, because I have to now downplay the significance of the deceased. Because in the applicant's report, they discuss the history of the property. And the property was built and occupied by a former Lieutenant Governor of Prince Edward Island, George de Brisbane de Blois. I'm just going to go with de Blois because I will butcher that name going forward. This in and of itself is not significant. The property was constructed after he had served as Lieutenant Governor. The applicants also rely heavily on his community involvement in support of their request. While his community involvement is admirable, his community involvement isn't that greater than any other number of people who have lived in Charlottetown for the past 200 years. And I also fail to see the significance of de Blois's father-in-law in relation to the heritage nature of the property. It's a nice story, but it doesn't add anything to the heritage nature of the property. De Blois is one of 42 individuals who have served as Lieutenant Governor of the province of Prince Edward Island. His time as Lieutenant Governor is no more significant than any other Lieutenant Governor. And his stature in the history of Charlottetown or island history is no more significant than any other Lieutenant Governor. He's not the first Lieutenant Governor. He's actually, I believe, the 27th. He's not the first female. He's not the first minority. There's no real significance to his time as Lieutenant Governor. not to take away from his accomplishments at all, but significance in respect to heritage, there isn't a lot, if any. Now, the applicants also rely on the fact that the property was owned by the Rod family. I guess if I was to disclose one conflict of interest, Linda Rod used to be the receptionist at my firm, and I love Linda Rod. I will declare that. She's a great lady. And while it is true that the Rod family did own the property commencing in the mid-'80s, their occupancy doesn't add any significant heritage value to the property. David Rod, while a well-respected, important island businessman, was not alive during the heritage era, having lived from 1940 to 2006. The Rod family is a very successful family, but they're post-heritage. They don't add anything to the heritage value of this property. The applicants also speak about the architect in their report on page 3. The applicants place a high level of reliance on the architect for the home being James E. Harris. While James E. Harris may have been the nephew of renowned architect William Critchlow Harris, I assume that to be true, I don't know. But from a heritage standpoint, he is of no great significance. He is not his uncle. His uncle's accomplishments cannot be attributed to him. And the applicants go on and list projects that James E. Harris was involved in, including the Tweedle Block, being 156 to 166 Great George Street, not designated as a heritage property. The Curry Block, 185 to 187 Queen Street, not designated as a heritage property. The Cass Science Hall at UPEI, as best as I could tell from the list of properties that have been designated, not designated as a heritage property. There is one property that I found on the list that was in the report that is on the list of heritage properties, and that being the 4 Ambrose Street property that Mr. Harris was, I take it to be true, the architect on. But if you look at the list that the city maintains, there's no notes making that a significant point with respect to 4 Ambrose. So it leads me to the question of how significant was James E. Harris from a heritage point of view, when all of the properties on the heritage list, I was unable to find any reference to him. Now, then the applicants go on and speak to the site. But before getting there, I also, while I'm speaking about the list of properties that have been received heritage designation, and you would know this list better than I, you are the committee, but in my review of that list, there is not a property designated on that list after 1930. This property was completed in 1940. Okay? So I didn't find any references to 1940 on that list. So there is a real possibility that if this property was designated as a heritage property, it will be the newest or youngest heritage property in the city of Charlottetown. We have individuals living in the city of Charlottetown who are older than this house. As towards the site, the writers go on to discuss the site's significance. Frankly, there is nothing specifically historic about this site. It is located, it is true, it's located on the water side of West Street. But that in and of itself does not make the home a landmark. The property is a private residence that has no real significance in the history of Charlottetown or Prince Edward Island. And in making this statement, the painting that I'm staring at, it strikes me as well in the chamber here, in which that the area around Province House has built up over time. Development happens. This property was built in 1940. It is not a heritage property. The applicants go on to consider the locations, site of the property, and place great significance on its proximity to Victoria Park. The fact that the rear of the property is viewable from Victoria Park does not make the property a heritage property. It is a nice property. Doesn't mean that it is a heritage property. If that was the case, then all properties along West Street, backing onto the water, would have heritage designations. Currently, only 5 and 17 West Street are the only properties that back onto the water that have been designated heritage properties. If you want to count Beaconsfield, you can count Beaconsfield. It's technically on Kent Street. It's a corner lot. But the properties 3, 7, 9, and 11 have not been designated as heritage properties. In the analysis section of the report, the writers indicate that an on-site inspection and evaluation of the property have not been completed, which seriously undermines the subjective nature of the heritage building evaluation score of 85. When you look at the evaluation itself, which is attachment G, the only objective criteria in that evaluation are 1, the date of construction, and 2, historical events at the property. Those are the only 2 that you can look at and say those are facts-based. In the score of the property, under the date of construction, 0. Historical events at the property, score 0. What is the historical significance of this property? There's none. The remaining criteria are highly subjective and susceptible to bias. And the applicants, with the exception of construction materials and methods section, score all of the subjective evaluations between very good to excellent. The applicants score all of the character categories in the architectural interest portion as very good to excellent. The owners, as part of their planned restoration of the property, commissioned a report by Coles and Associates, and Doug's here to speak to it, which seriously calls into question the integrity and the structural soundness of the property. Again, the applicants score the subjective categories in the historical interest portion as either very good or excellent. And they base that upon who has lived at the property. But again, this is who has lived at the property since 1940. And the people who have lived there since 1940 are of minimal historical significance. And one of the reasons why I say the individuals who have lived there are of minimal historical significance is the fact that no historical events of significance have occurred at the property. So how significant were these individuals if no events of historical significance occurred at the property while they were living there. At best, the historical interest in the property can be classified between poor and fair. And then in summarizing their analysis, at page 8, they write, "The recently submitted proposal to renovate and alter the property includes substantial additions on the north and south sides of the building. This work would result in the removal of the 1939-40 sun porch and garage and would significantly alter the historic character defining elements of the property." But again, I am left wondering how or why. Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. How or why? There is nothing about the current sunroom or the current garage that are architecturally significant. They're nice. They're not the defining features to the house, though. After the proposed renovations or restorations, in addition to the house, the character will be maintained. The requirements of the 500 lot special zoning requires it. Other than the sun porch and the hipped roof, the home will continue to have the elements identified earlier in the applicant's report. Massing, sheer size of the property, it's impressive. That's not going to change. If anything, it's going to be more impressive. The chimneys are going to remain. Symmetrical facade is going to remain. The center two-story portico is going to remain. The fenestration is going to remain. Most of the moldings, including the swan neck molding above the door, will remain. The dentelated Fresnel and pilasters, hoping that who's ever typing this is going to get that right because I butchered it. It will remain, and there will remain a garage. It will be relocated. It will be a better garage. It will be a nicer garage, but there will be a garage. The roof will be changed from a hipped roof to a mansard roof. What that means, I don't know, but what my client tells me is it will be very similar to the roof on Beaconsfield. It's round with gables, my client tells me it'll be a more impressive roof. And I leave you with knowing this. A temporary heritage designation is an extreme remedy. I want to impress that upon you. One not typically seen outside of when a property is threatened for demolition or redevelopment, in which the threat is clear on its face. Here, that's not the case. The work contemplated by the owners of the property for the restoration of the property is necessary to protect the architectural integrity of the property and permit the property to continue to serve as a family home for generations to come, as it has for two families in the past. The nature of the heritage characteristics of the property are not at risk, again, because the property is located in the 500 lot area, which is a special zone, as everyone knows, and the historical continuity of the property will be maintained. The city has done its work with respect to the 500 lot. Doesn't need to resort to the temporary designation. The property is subject to those requirements, and that is the appropriate method by which the city can maintain the heritage characteristics of the property. It is inappropriate to try and shoehorn this property into a heritage designation to maintain control over the development or my client's as of right use of the property. frankly, to sum up, the property is not a heritage property. It's a nice property, but it's not a heritage property. It's outside of any area in which heritage, the city of Charlottetown is concerned about heritage. It is a nice property. It does have elements that call back to a period of time, but it's not a heritage property. You could construct that home today and have similar characteristics. That's not going to make a building built in 2025 a heritage property. I would turn that over, and that's my review of the bylaws and the application of the report. I'm not sure if you want.
Thank you
Doug,
very
just-
much for that information. And I'll just turn it back to the homeowner. I believe you still have a few more items to
Yep.
present.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will ask Mr. Coles to speak to his work, as, like I say, it's gone back over the last year through his firm, and I'll let him speak to that work.
Thank you. Philip, my name is Douglas Coles. I'm a principal with Coles Associates Limited. I've been practicing engineering in the province for 43 years, they tell me. We were hired in January of 2025 to review the house at 1 West, and we went through it. We issued a report in February of 2025. We identified a number of deficiencies, some of them very significant. With respect to the foundation and support system, we were looking at portions of the house having deflected 7 to 8 inches, requiring the installation of temporary supports, literally to keep the back of the building from breaking on itself. We also have witnessed that there is significant rot, dry rot, on not only was there on the entry columns, putting some of that detailing at risk, which was identified by the applicant and again talked to by Matthew. The third item that was noted is that the house is located within what's called in the engineering field anyway, the red zone. It is subject to significant impact from storm surge. And our recommendation at the time, and it was and continues to be, that if structural work is to be done to the house to keep it from failing structurally, that our recommendation would be to raise the floor of the house so it's out of the tidal zone. We've all witnessed in recent years what happens with climate change. It's not getting any better. Take your minds down to the yacht club. They raised it by 3 feet just to keep it out of the red zone. So while it may be nice to believe that there are things to be gained by maintaining some of the elements on the facility, one thing that we're very aware of, and we've made Philip and Jackie aware of, is you've got some significant structural and tidal zone issues that have to be fixed, and if they're not going to be fixed, then the building itself is at risk. As I said, we were there in January. We issued a report in February, and we issued a supplemental report in June, all coming back to the same 3 issues. Your foundation is at risk, your structure is at risk, and your facility is at risk from the tides. We would recommend changes and be made and improvements be had. My understanding is that the application that was submitted to City Hall was going to be the first step in making that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I turn it over to the board, Philip and Jackie, the homeowners, was there anything else in your report before I turn it over for questions with the board?
Yeah, thank you. We'll, I guess we'll just speak to the personal experience that we've had since we've taken residence. I guess if you want to come up and give me a hand, Jack. We do want to thank you, Chair, Deputy Mayor Jankoff, for making us aware of this meeting and having the opportunity to come and speak. As we said earlier, up until 2 days ago, we had no formal notice that this process was being forced upon us. So we feel that it's extremely important to be here and speak for our family. Now, we were both born in Charlottetown, raised in the area. We run our businesses in Charlottetown, and we raise our family here. They attend local schools and participate with community activities 7 days a week. And we live on West Street. Now, we knew the area as established once upon a time, and I have a list of the houses that are registered as heritage resources on West Street, and there are 5. So we knew it to be an established single-family residential neighborhood. I guess that's what I always thought of it as when we grew up. There's buildings, houses here, and I feel it's important to summarize, how things have changed. I'll take 18 West Street. I guess I'll start at the top. It was built in 1839. It was actually moved to West Street in the 1870s, and it has been converted. It was built as a single-family home. It's 101 years older than One West, but it was built as a family home. Beautiful house, but it is now 4 apartments. 5 West Street, just 2 up from us, was built in 1874 as a single-family home. Nice house. It's 66 years older than us, and it is now has been converted to 3 apartment units. It's a 3-unit apartment building. 12 West Street on the corner of the Eden Hall Inn, built in 1897. It was built as a house, single-family residence. It now operates as a commercial bed and breakfast. It's 43 years older than One West. 22 West, the Stone Priory, was built in 1892. This is a William Harris, and these are all historically registered. They're heritage resources. Built in 1892, this William Harris is a family home, and it's the only family home that is a registered resource on West Street that remains single-family home today. It's 48 years older than One West. 17 West Street was built in 1877, another William Harris, built as a single-family home. It was a house. It is now a 4-unit apartment rented as kind of like a hotel Airbnb, 63 years older than One West. We come to the corner of Grafton and West, One Grafton, which is another William Harris, built in 1894, as a family house, single-family dwelling. It is now converted, again, to a tourist inn business. It's 46 years older than One West. And on Kent Street, to Kent, as Matt mentioned, we have Beaconsfield, another William Harris, 63 years older than One West, and it's now houses the Island Museum. So of all those properties where their original intent was built for single-family dwelling, only one remains as a family home. First and foremost, when we purchased One West, and it was mentioned a corporation bought it, that was us. It was moved to our personal names to be the family home. We did not buy a heritage property, nor do we want the property designated heritage. As Matt said, it is a nice property, but this is not a heritage property. And the plans we submitted for permit were prepared according to the city's planning and development bylaw for downtown neighborhood zone and meet all the requirements for a permit, as was mentioned in the Heritage Officer's report. This is an as-of-right permit, and according to the bylaw, should be issued. We've submitted the plans, and we've paid the fee. We had not received any communication regarding a special heritage meeting about our family's home that was scheduled in our absence, and thankfully, it did get moved, with our home being the only subject of the meeting. I know you've mentioned that the bylaw is being amended. I would suggest that if anything comes out of this process be made public and the property owner be notified and be given this opportunity, because we do appreciate being here to speak to it. So we have received an email, actually last week, from the building inspector with a few minor questions about the plans submitted for our addition, and we've sent that email to our architect and engineer, Coles Associates, to answer for permit issuance. But this just didn't happen over last week. Over the last 2 years, we've made our intentions well known clearly to the city planning department several times in writing, in-person meetings, and over several phone calls, and we began this process to plan our addition and our family home, and we feel it's prudent to say that. It is documented, and it's an ongoing process. We were surprised to have this meeting sort of at the 9th hour when we expected to be digging a hole like this week.
Or a couple months ago.
Yeah, or a couple of months ago, but again, as part of this process, in this purchase, it was not a heritage property, and through the planning process, we brought what we want for our family to drawings through Coles Associates, and we submitted the plan to the planning office for a lot subdivision, which also left adequate land and property for a garage addition to the south side of the house. Again, we also commissioned that report by Coles Associates to examine the existing structure of the house, as there are areas of serious structural failing throughout the house that need to be addressed immediately. Our intentions were expressed to the planning office to maintain single-family residential homes for the area, which included the McDonald residence that's being built on the lot next to us now, and put attention to the inn, which we converted to our family home, with features that we felt we need in these changing times, like the garage, most importantly. And we wanted to add a new kitchen behind it. Again, a bedroom above it, and bring the house to today's age. It would be like building a house today without internet, for example, not having these things. Now, being passionate about what we do with our family's home and to protect our interest, we actually had Matt Bradley register within our deeds for our house and the McDonald's family as well, restrictive covenants that protect our property from becoming something that we did not want. And within the covenants that are registered, it's a public document, it shows the footprint, the buildable footprint on our plan, which was submitted 2 years ago when we first applied to sever the lot. It shows the addition space on 1 West. Now, West Street was built to be single-family residential, and short of a few houses, all other properties, registered heritage resources or not, have been converted to apartments and or hotel-style Airbnb operations, bed and breakfast, commercial operations for tourists. I understand tourism is very important to PEI, but it would seem the city has more support for a parade of tourists walking down West Street or wheeling their luggage out of their STR than that for those who live here, work here, raise their family here, pay property tax and run their business here, and that create employment, not just a few weeks of the summer, but for 12 months of the year. I think it was crystal clear that when we were talking to the planning department about our plans for the property, that the subdivision would happen, as it did, and the garage permit would be issued. And we took this assurance as binding and proceeded with the applications as instructed. And the lot subdivision occurred. The property is not a heritage resource, and we don't agree to have it designated as such. I guess in almost 30 years of working with the planning office to build the city, that's what we do. We are builders. We're involved in the real estate business. We've been successful to complete projects because people at the planning office do follow through with what they say, and they follow the bylaw, and that's exactly what we're doing. I guess we took this approval in principle, subject to the bylaws, as the path for doing regular business, and we expected to get a building permit and fix the house. Before we spend any time and money seeking approvals or any discussion or decision makers, this is exactly what we did. So, you want to finish, Jack?
Yeah, I think we did want to mention about the sunroom. It is not, the way it stands today is, it's already had an addition on it. Originally, it was a single-story sunroom. Today, it's a two-story sunroom. And,
Greenhouse.
yeah, that was renovated by the people who ran the inn into a one-season bathroom.
Send that around.
We can send that
Can we
around.
circulate that?
Okay, so this is the original one, and that's what it looks like today. Up here on the top, that's a bathroom with 9 windows with no heat. Where's the other one? The other
Oh,
edition?
I sent that one's that one's on the,
So this
north
one
side.
is the north side, and the addition at the back was done, one of the prettiest parts of the house was done by the Rods. It's not the original house.
Well, thank you very much for
guess-
that. Oh, go ahead,
Well,
sorry.
in summary, we,
It's a family home.
yeah,
That was the Du Bois's wish, was to keep it a family home. And the Rods raised their family there. We'd like to do the same.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to open it up now to the board. Any questions? And you can bypass me as chair and go right to staff if you wish, or if you have a question for the homeowners, I'll just open it up to anyone that maybe has a question.
No, I think it's always important to hear to allow resident members, since this is like planning board, we have resident members on here, and this is the only opportunity where resident members get to speak. They don't get to speak at council, so I'll defer to them for now.
Well, the question, it's out there for them, so anyone that wants to, yep, go ahead, Emil.
So is the temporary heritage classification to be able to do a full heritage classification on the history of the property?
Yes, and so it would be 45 days that would, then the staff would do, as Brad alluded to, possibly an external evaluator would come in and do that. And then they would come back through with a new report with their conclusions of that temporary designation, with whether their recommendation would be then to turn it into a permanent heritage designation. Yep.
And is that looking at both the historical aspect of the property or who's lived in the property, as well as the structural aspect of the building?
I can't speak to the deep dive in which, we've been through this once in our time, and that was with a property also in the 500 lot area. I could ask Brad or Natalie if they want to speak to what that process looks like during that 45-day period, if you will.
Through the chair, yes, so the temporary designation process, as I mentioned, would allow us the 45 days to do an additional analysis or on-site inspection and evaluation of the property. And as I mentioned, we could bring in a potential third-party heritage assessment, so this would be a heritage expert to go in and look at, do a property inspection and analysis to kind of verify any heritage aspects of the property. Yep. And then the process, so I can kind of outline the process that would kind of proceed. And so here tonight, we're determining whether or not we want to support a recommendation to request that council approve this 45 temporary designation. If council were to approve the temporary designation, a notice of temporary designation would be published in the newspaper, having general circulation in the area, posted on the city's website, and served to the owners of the property in question. The notice of temporary designation would contain the civic address and parcel information of the heritage resource, a summary of the consequences of designation, the date and time by which the written comments and objections must be received on the temporary designation. So people would be given an opportunity to either support or object to this temporary designation. And then such other particulars as council deems necessary or relevant. Where temporary designation has been ordered by council, no person shall move or develop the building or structure for a period of 45 days. Within the 45 calendar days of the date of notice of temporary designation, the temporary designation status will expire unless council proceeds with the process to designate the heritage resource by posting a notice of the intent to designate. So then they would go through another process of going to council for the full designation process.
Thank you very much for that. Any follow-up there, Emil?
Yeah, I remember the last one was on Prince Street, the corner of, not Prince, Water Street. And we had been shown the plan of what they were proposing, which was totally different than what existed around that structure. Basically, we're talking it was a metal building with windows. It was totally, the structure was totally.
And you're absolutely right, but keep in mind, the only thing we were making the decision on was that they were putting in a demolition period. That renovation had never been approved through the Planning and Heritage Department. But I'm sorry, I cut you off. You keep going.
No, that's okay. But there
Yep.
was no historical factor, if I remember, from that, in that project. There was no.
Right, yep.
Somebody important
And it
had
was
lived there.
prompted, the evaluation through a demolition permit. Yep, that, you're correct.
Okay.
Any questions other questions from the, I don't see any other resident members, so go ahead, Councillor McCabe.
And it's more trying to understand the evaluation criteria. The date of construction, we have a 0 score. We get into exterior condition, excellent to meet criteria for heritage, but then we just see that there's already been additions and things done to this property in the last while. The point around the trigger where we might have come in to look at this property and that designation when we're looking at Airbnb licensing, when we're looking at sale and changes. And then I'm just trying to understand your criteria, just setting and streetscape. Well, would the whole street not meet criteria for heritage designation? I know there's been talk about that, and there's been nothing done with that, but here we are tonight talking about one property for heritage designation. Personally, I'm not going to be able to support staff's recommendation to put the temporary heritage based on what I've read, based on listening to the criteria and stuff tonight. And I hope we can start to do better, and that's why we've been pushing the new bylaw so that it's a little clearer and it's a little bit more consistent. I think when we're getting into subjectivity, I'm not confident certainly to stand in the way of people and their properties when they purchase them this year with no knowledge that this was something that could be a potential.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tara, and then, yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm seeing this issue, I think you have a beautiful home, Jackie and Philip. That's just a wonderful building. And I have a great appreciation for it as to its present form. So change, I would hope that whatever changes you're contemplating are very sympathetic to the existing building. But I see this issue as one of, they met all the criteria for as of right permit. They had no heritage designation on this building. That is a shame that we didn't have that in place earlier. Given the level of appreciation by the department for this building. But I have to, I think we, in essence, on this building, we've missed the boat. This building is a red flag to say we need to review West Street more carefully and move forward on coming up with a way of designating more buildings on that street to preserve it. And I know, I think of in a way that the building we're discussing today is like an anchor store in a mall almost. You know, it has that importance on that street. It's a real anchor on that street. But we've missed the boat on this. That's my feeling. We can't penalize the homeowners because of our process. And I'm not saying that it was because you guys were a bunch of slackers or anything like that. I recognize the level of work involved in what you do. But I don't think we can come in after the fact when they've and there was a lot of opportunities that in knowledge something was going to be coming on this building and things were changing and I don't think we can do anything more on this. I think we have to allow the permit to go forward, and I think that we need to review our process and make it more transparent. That was not the intent, and because I know how sincere everybody is, and in this, I've been on Heritage Review Board probably 20 years, and take it seriously, and everybody does take it very seriously, but there was no attempt to deceive or hide or sneak anything by you. It was just the way the process is written, and obviously it needs to be reviewed, which I understand is going to happen. So where I'm sitting, and it kills me on one level to say this, I don't think we have the we should. I have to say, no, I can't support this. I'm sorry.
Thank you, and then over to Kenny, and then on to Lucas.
We love the look of the house too, and we do plan to carry that with our.
What hit home with me was when the gentleman said the character will remain. So I don't see a problem with that. The other thing, the garage and mansard roof, which will match up the architecture. And most important is it's going to be a family home. And I don't know any family that doesn't take pride in their home, and I'm sure you people will too. there's a lot happening in West Street. There's a lot of good things happening in West Street. There's a mixture of very, very modern, and it's very close to that home. So I think, my opinion, leave well enough alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Lucas, over to you.
Thanks for your submissions, and I am also not in favor of imposing the temporary designation. This is not and you're not seeking a variance. We have our 500 lot protections. I'm not seeing the imminent threat to the heritage characteristic of the property. I appreciate that you do in your submissions are taking this property seriously, and you plan to keep its character. I think there was other opportunities for the city to have identified this property as a heritage resource, and we didn't. The temporary designation, in my view, is an extreme measure to be used. And the last time this committee imposed such a designation was when a property was up for demolition. It's not the case here, and I don't think the committee should be exercising that power now. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? Somebody, Laurel, go ahead.
Madam, I have a couple points I would like to mention. First of all, this isn't just as of right. That seems to be floated around the room quite frequently tonight. This is a property in the 500 lot area. Any alterations to this building is required to go through design review. We did receive plans from the applicants last year, but they were site plans mainly to determine where the additions could be within the buffer zone, whether they were in or out. And we have a site plan that just shows an addition. So there were no architectural details. And at the time, I told the applicants that it was not a designated property. However, it is within the 500 lot area, and that it would have to go through design review, and that any significant alterations to the building would probably be scrutinized because it is a well-loved property with Unlet Street. So as far as demolition, yes, 10 Prince Street was up for demolition. However, I would look at this as demolition by renovation, because this isn't just, this just isn't a renovation or an addition. This is a complete change in architectural character. No, this property is not designated, but I think that the board has to be responsible enough to review this in the context of the streetscape, its views across Victoria Park, its presence on the waterfront, how this building presents along that view. It's a well-known view along Charlottetown's waterfront. Mainly the architectural value and contribution of this property is its presence within the architectural landscape of the city. They mentioned correction to structural issues. That can be done without altering the complete character of the building. Province House had significant architectural and structural issues. They did not change the character of Province House. It still looks like Province House. Also, the applicant brought up the fact that it's being retained as a family home and that other properties along West Street are used as inns or some form of apartment building or whatever. But I think you all must look at the fact that most of our architecture, our heritage buildings within the city have been conversions. So those buildings are not, for the most part, family homes, because in order to maintain those types of properties, you have to convert them because they're large properties. For instance, the George Street Inns, many of those buildings are heritage buildings, but in order to retain those buildings within the city and their architectural quality, they had to be converted to inns. They still look like the heritage buildings they were. So yes, it is great, and I'm happy that these buildings are going to be this building would be retained as a family home, but I think there has to be respect to the architectural value and the character of that property and its significance on that street. And the matter, I believe it's a matter of opinion that Governor Du Bois wasn't significant. We have a lot of properties that were occupied by significant people in our city. Significant, what's the word I'm looking for? But there weren't things that happened on those properties specifically that Matthew Bradley spoke about, like there weren't events or whatever. But those people that were important to our city lived within those properties. And I believe, I don't think that you can denounce a governor for the province that he wasn't significant. So those are my comments. I think that we do have to look at this. I believe that a temporary designation, from my professional standpoint, is appropriate in this case. I really do, because I think it will give staff the opportunity to determine whether this property warrants a designation, because once this property is changed, there's no going back. So that's my comments on this.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Laurel. And just a point of clarity, you made reference twice to the applicant. Just to clarify, the applicant is the city, not the residents. I just wanted to make sure that we had that clarity in case folks are listening on YouTube. Oh, yeah, no, that's no problem. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair.
Yep.
I guess just to reaffirm to everyone, our intention is to improve the property. Yes, we are going to renovate, but we're going to maintain what is there. If it's left, it is in imminent danger of structural failure now. Nothing has occurred inside that property to protect it structurally. Since it was built, it was failing, since day one. The only thing that was ever done was patch up the cracks and paint over them and cut the doors off so that the doors would close. As things sink and fail, that was their remedy. So as part of the overall project, which we've asked Coles to help us with, we'd like to modernize the home a little bit for our lifestyle, for our family, no different than the Rod family did, and I believe even the Du Bois family made some changes over the years. And we're not here to diminish anyone's accomplishments. I think we have effectively already done an assessment, if you will, through Coles' reports and drawings. And again, this is not a heritage property. So I did take my own liberty, because I know a little bit about construction. Spent basically my entire adult life doing it. And I took some time and I went through this evaluation form, which when you look at the math on it, the scoring criteria, it's basically set up on a bell curve scoring formula, because it adds up to 145. So the way, if you add up the points, and it pushes everyone through to achieve a classification, if you will. So I was very fair when I went through the markings, and I really only drug down a couple. Basically scored everything up through the middle, either an 8 or a 5. And of course, it got 0 on its date of construction. But my math came up with 45 to 48. And on this scoring schedule, under the classification, it deems it ineligible for designation because it falls within 20 to 49 points. If I take the math and turn it into a percentage, okay, because that's effectively what it is, 85 points over the 145 that you could attain, that's a 58% value. My math at 48 takes it to 33. So this is not a heritage property. It's not Fanning Bank or Province House or Beaconsfield. We're adding a garage, a proper kitchen, and a bedroom suite. Like, I'm happy to go to design review. I have no problem with anyone critiquing my work. I've done so in my business life. But this is my family's home now. I don't think the neighboring property went to design review. They built a single-family home, in which, and that's what,
1A.
1A, which it will remain, because we put that right in our restrictive covenants. As long as the McDonald family is in their home, or we're in ours, the properties must be single-family. We're doing that, which is what the water side of West Street used to be before it was rezoned into the downtown neighborhood classification. The water side of West Street was single-family residential. So,
Put it back.
yeah.
Thank you very much. I believe, Brad, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I know it's been mentioned here a few times tonight that we didn't show you guys any proposals or anything like that. The reason for that is that this is an active file that's being reviewed by our planning department. So right now it's with our building inspectors. And so we didn't want to comment on at this medium to discuss that application that's actively being reviewed by our planning staff. And I would just like to remind everyone here that what we're discussing here tonight is a recommendation to support the request to council. So there will be a request made to council on this. So what we're discussing here tonight is would Heritage Board like to support that recommendation like to support that request to council. I know we're kind of talking about designs and things like that. Certainly there will be opportunity for that, as Laurel mentioned in design review and whatnot. So.
Thank you for that. And I would just point out, as I know, I was quite involved, and part of the last time we went through this, there was a lengthy conversation around a proposed unapproved design package. So I can see then why that conversation became part of it this evening, because it was very much part of the last time we did this too. I know you weren't here at the time, but it was very much part of that as well. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. I'm just clarifying. If this proceeds, it will go through the design review process because it's in the 500 lot. Is that correct?
It will follow the process that the bylaw states,
And-
whatever that is. If it's design review, then they'll go through design review. Yep, whatever the process is, that it will follow the zoning and development bylaw. Yep. I see a light on by the homeowner. Go ahead. Okay, no, all right. She didn't have her light on, so go ahead. Yep.
All right, I just wanted to offer it up in case.
I will say one thing. Was it in your report that it's an as of right? Okay, I just wanted to clarify on that.
Thank you for that, and go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing is a lot of opinions here tonight. Opinion from our professional staff who, in my estimation, are doing the job that they're tasked to do, and opinions from our architect and our legal opinion who are doing what they're tasked to do. And the question for me, I guess we're not talking about an insignificant property that means a lot to a lot of people here in Charlottetown. And I am in no way questioning the fact that Philip and Jackie will be doing their best to come up with a property that will befit such an important street here in Charlottetown. I'm going to echo what Laurel said, in the sense that I think sometimes I don't like leaving stones unturned, and I think this would be a 6-week second look by a third party. I think that would be important to do, because we are looking at this through different lenses. The scoring, 48 from Philip, 85 from Natalie and Brad. The whole idea of whether it's as of right or whatever, all kinds of questions that I think, for the benefit of a 6-week pause to assure that we are doing this the right way. For such an important street, not only to residents of Charlottetown, but to visitors of Charlottetown and those that love our city as much as we do. And I would hate to go through a process and leave something that should have been addressed that should have been addressed beforehand between looking at it. So I'm probably going to be the lone vote in favor of supporting staff here, but I may or may not be. I don't know. But I would like to take 6 weeks, up to 6 weeks. It may come quicker. And then come back and look at the whole thing once it's been determined by a third party and make an assessment of the work that's been done, taking into account what's been talked about here today, taking into account the views of the property owners, the architect, the legal opinions, all that sort of stuff. So I am going to support the motion and for the temporary designation because I want to have a full understanding and I would like to have an independent understanding or interpretation of the process. Thank you.
Thanks. So we have a recommendation from staff. Does somebody want to put a resolution on the floor at this stage? Okay, so Councillor Beck is moving to support staff's recommendation. So someone can either second that, or if no one wants to second that, then they can put a different resolution on the floor. So that's where we're at. Does someone want to second it, or do they want to move on to a different resolution? Okay, that being said, Councillor
I'll
McCabe?
put a resolution on that not to support staff's recommendation.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Okay, seconded by Kenny. So the recommendation is to not support staff's recommendation, to not invoke a 45-day temporary heritage designation on this property. Question, all those in favor of the resolution? Those opposed? We have Sharon and we have Councillor Beck. Okay, so this will move on to council. Council will be made aware of the board's recommendation and the staff's recommendation, and council will make that final decision on Tuesday evening. So I thank everyone. This was a very detailed conversation, and I appreciate everyone's patience for me allowing everyone to be able to speak on this, because it's not something that happens very often. So I think it was very important that everyone got heard. Now, Emile, you have your light on.
Just a question in regards to, a point made in regards to when there is a request from the staff to have a temporary designation, in the present policy or whatever exists, is there something where the homeowners are informed in a certain amount of time and that? Because if not, then I mean, there's a problem there.
Yes, and that's, as a sidebar, that's one of the reasons we are working on a new heritage preservation bylaw that will be coming out for public consultation at some point, where we will encourage the residents of Charlottetown to be involved and make sure that the appropriate changes are made to this bylaw that speak to maybe some of the things that are missing or need to be included or not included, et cetera. So we'll certainly be keeping everybody informed on when we get going on that in the new year, for sure. So I thank you for the question. Any new business? Seeing none, motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Beck, seconded by Kenny. All those in favor? Wonderful. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening. It's our last meeting before the new year, so happy holidays, Merry Christmas, or whatever you choose to say.